It's the season finale of the David Makes Man Aftershow, and we have two special guests tonight. Music supervisor Jabari and Lucien is here again. Stay tuned.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, the buzz begins.
Happy Hump Day, everybody. It is your favorite after show on AfterBuzz Dramas, the David Makes Man After Show. I am your host, Sahai Wilson, and tonight you are in for so much. We have special guests. We got a special montage, news and gossip, predictions, and everything that you wanted to know about the show. First, let me introduce my special panel. I have Josh.
Yo, what's up?
Josh gives us the male opinion. He's a stylist, and, you know, he tells us what it's like to be a parent and gives us the male perspective. Mm-hmm. What's up, Josh?
What's happening?
And then we have the beautiful Zakia. Hi, Zakia.
Hello, guys.
Zakia is a publicist. She books all of our talent. She's a brand manager, and she gives us her perspective on life in the PJs.
Yes.
And I'm your host again, Sahai Wilson. I'm a producer with over 10 years of experience, and I like to give you the behind-the-scenes details of what really makes your shows happen. But also, we'll go into our special guest, the man who made the music so sweet. We have Mr. Jabari in the house. Everyone, please welcome Jabari.
Good.
Welcome to the show, Jabari. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
I'm humbled to be here.
Thank you so much.
Guys.
And then our friend to the show. He's a screenwriter, he's a poet, he's a lover and a friend.
Yes, he is.
Mr. Lucien Christian Adderly.
What's happening?
Glad to be back.
Thank you. And he busted out the grills for us tonight.
I had to represent.
Okay, see, Lucien is in rare form tonight, but so are we. We are so excited. If you guys watched tonight, you know this finale was so special. And because it's so special, I wanted to put together a little montage to say thank you to everyone that's been here. So let's hit it. Get ready to delve into the world of David Makes Man right now, tonight on AfterBuzz Drama. Stay tuned.
Trying to be like an amateur Chris Brown.
You was dancing hard.
I was dancing real hard.
Sweating.
A little too hard.
Relationship that Saren has with his stepdad and his mother.
Does God grant me the serenity? It's crazy.
The whole house crazy, and Marissa definitely sees it. She like
felt it.
something ain't right here.
I wonder if she knows or she just knew.
She got a vibe. She can tell that she definitely got a vibe from the atmosphere.
And also, like, Star is he's very wise, and he watches and he listens more than he talks, and that's not really me.
And there you go.
Hey. All right. Shout out to the editor on that video.
Thank you,
Wilson.
guys.
That was so cute.
Thank you, guys. No, but we really wanted to thank Lucien, Bird, Travis and Isaiah, Jamel, Sarah, and Logan for all being guests on this show, and even tonight, Jabari. So,
yes.
No,
Thank you.
First, let's get into some overall thoughts. Guys, we have so much to cover tonight, so we're going to try to hit everything. We're in the chat with you tonight, so Josh will hit you up in the chat. Let us know what you thought. And let me get your overall thoughts. Zakia, I'll start with you.
Tonight was crazy. It was so unexpected, especially David and his turnaround. I was completely shocked. He was the leader of this entire thing, and I don't know where that change happened. Was he always like this? Was this a character we never saw? It baffled me, but it was crazy. I loved it.
But you called it. You said David is the kingpin, you know, and that's who we saw. But there were moments where I felt like his face morphed into a totally different person.
Yes.
And that speaks to his acting ability, you know, for such a new talent. That was amazing. What were your overall thoughts?
That was the confidence in him. You know, in real life, you see people progress in their fields, and they go from a beginner to a savant. And when they become a savant, they're able to change their entire demeanor. He did that, and he did it with so much awareness. He dotted every I and crossed every T. It was good to see that.
Now, Jabari, you've seen this episode several times, but when you first saw it, what were your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts of the first time I saw it was absolutely masterpiece. I thought it was a great way to end season one. It was around the time that like 2 days after Nipsey was actually murdered and taken from us. So it was very hard and challenging for me to actually watch the episode during post. I just remember going in and out just in tears, like literally. So it's most definitely a heartfelt episode, but the entire series is just incredible.
Yeah.
Now, Lucien, tell us who wrote this episode. I wonder who put the words on the page.
So you have Mr. Terrell Alvin McCraney, first of his name.
Happy birthday.
Yes,
y'all.
happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Terrell.
Absolutely.
You have my writing partner, Richard Bird Wilson, and myself, Lucien Christian Adderly. So, the Florida Boys on another episode.
That's right. Putting this together as the last episode and having to remember so much that happened, like, how did you keep track of everything? And what was the sentiment that you wanted to leave the audience with?
So this episode was very much reflective of David's journey. We talk about the show, we talk about David Makes Man, and if you look at this episode and you compare it to the pilot episode, you see so many things have changed within his character. And that is what we wanted you to see, that journey, that elevation of David. And now you can look at David as a completely different person. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things we wanted to make sure that came across. It was that journey, and that you got a chance to see this character development throughout. So, yeah.
And Jabari, we started that journey with a song that we were talking about that, Jay-Z and Beyonce sampled. Can you tell us about that song that we opened up the episode with?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't the opening song, but I think it was like the second song,
right.
Hi-Ya, which was sampled by Jay-Z and Beyonce on their album in 2018. And we just wanted to bridge the gap to have the freedom to allow young people to explore the original, songs. And Terrell, he comes from a great gospel, background, so he's very locked in, and him actually locating this song and saying this is one of those songs that people will gravitate to because it was sampled by one of our biggest and best artists in the business.
Nice. Yeah. So walking through the episode a little bit, we start with Gloria and JG and their evolution. We'll kind of just do a quick recap so we can get to everything tonight. But Gloria, Zakia, you called it again. I didn't want to believe it was going to happen, but she's back on the drug.
Yes, she's back on the stuff, but what's crazy about the situation is David placed her back on. And now because David is such a mastermind, I'm even starting to wonder if this is all part of his plan, if he gets his...
Wait. So you think he might have wanted his mama back on the drug?
Just to be oblivious to the fact of like what he's doing right now, possibly.
Okay.
I'm with the Twitter people. I'm gonna start making up everything. Give me a pen and a pad, and I'm gonna make up a whole new series.
Right.
Of what really happened.
Like I told you, Saren and Star Child gonna have a show. Okay, literally gonna start working on that.
So put Zakia in the writing room.
Okay.
Ready.
Look, we need to be in there now. Lucien, tonight is our finale. We have a lot of questions, and you're gonna have to answer them tonight. Okay. We saw JG. He's hurting over the loss of his friend. So, what do you think is gonna happen to JG? Like as the show evolves, I'll go to Josh with this.
Okay. Well, at this point, I think JG has decided that he's going to kind of lay off a little bit of the hardcore persona. You see him, this is the first time I've actually seen him being a kid, or what we perceive as a kid, playing touch football or tackle football on the grass with his friends. He still has a flippant mouth because it's his brother, but he seems to be more along the lines of, my homie just died because he was trying to be too grown. Let me chill out and see what happens next.
Yeah. Moving on to Elijah and Shinobi. That relationship definitely changed. David basically asked Elijah, like, listen, help me get out the game. And Elijah, but Elijah's not his godparent, is he?
Yeah.
He is, right? Yes. Okay, yes. His godparent. And then we saw Shinobi get beat up by Desmond, and Shinobi's still hurting, and he's trying to leave. And we also saw a flashback to how Sky died. So where do we... I'm trying to find the connection between Elijah and Shinobi when we saw Elijah get so emotional. Why do we think that happened?
Okay, so let me.
And then Lucien, I want you to tell me why you
right.
wrote it that way. But let's start with Lucien. Lucien, why did you write it that way?
Well, I'm actually curious to see what you guys think.
Okay,
I'm
so
actually
I
curious.
pinned this together because
With your Twitter thoughts?
Yep,
Okay.
you know I did. So David was talking to Mixelijah, and he didn't even know that David was the whole leader of this. But when they did find out, David basically said, "Okay, do this last script, write this, blah, blah, blah."
Right.
So he wrote it. Shinobi, per usual, comes over. Oh, all of a sudden you have the script right here, and it's already written out, and the name is David Young.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this was a plan, and even when Rainen came to David and said, "Oh, they got Shinobi," he was like, "And." It was like all part of the process. Like, let's get them off of our bag.
Right.
And we're going to use Shinobi as collateral.
Right.
Like, he got to go.
Yeah, he's a nobody.
Collateral damage.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, Lucien, why did you write it that way?
So it was a part of the plan.
Right.
David knew what he was doing. You know, even from the very moment that you saw Shinobi walk up and talk to him, when he grabbed him by the backpack, and he said, "Get out, get out."
Right.
And he knew if he talked to him in a certain way that he was going to follow those steps.
Mm-hmm.
And so for Elijah, it's really one of those things where it still hurt. You know what I mean? And also in that moment, the way that Shinobi was talking and the things that Shinobi was saying still hurt. You know?
Yeah.
So there is something very genuine about that situation where it's just like, look, you know, if you listen to Elijah at the end, Elijah is saying, "David, I hope you're right."
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because I've lost this person.
You know
that
what
I
I'm saying?
actually
Like,
care about.
there's so many things that I just went through
Yeah.
and put myself on the line with for this moment.
Yeah.
But it's all a part of the plan. You know?
You know, situationship to be like that. That's how they be.
You going to set him up?
No, situationship.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Because that's what
I
they
think
had.
he just set himself up. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like his greed, you know, his wanting to be on top, not being the follower in the neighborhood. You know what I
Right.
mean? It was his time. So he took that moment and he ran with it. And
Yep.
hey,
One of the questions I had is, and jumping around a little bit, is Shinobi dead?
No, Shinobi's not dead.
Okay.
Shinobi is not dead. Yeah. I mean, you even hear Rainen says it. Rainen says that, you know, Teoteo let Shinobi go.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
See,
Yeah,
because
he
you know
said
we
that
be
in the
missing
scene.
things sometimes. Okay. Good. Praise be.
Yeah.
Praise be.
so your David Makes Man crush is still alive.
I mean, gosh, help me out, Jabari. I appreciate his talent. Great work. Great work. Moving on to Desmond and Teoteo.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw that Desmond was the one that killed Sky.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Teoteo come in, and he was kind of on a hunt too. Like, Desmond was hunting some people. Teoteo was hunting people as well. With Teoteo, why do we think he was looking for David at one point? And do we think he kind of knew what was going on? Do we think Teoteo was on to David
Or Shinobi.
or Shinobi?
I think that he knew that. I think David had proven to Teoteo that he wasn't that type of guy.
Yeah.
At some point, I feel like Teoteo may have connected the dots, but he said to Rainen, "I need to see what David's been up to," because he kept seeing his name around, and especially with the detective. So when he got there, he didn't seem too surprised that Shinobi was the culprit.
Right.
That's what I deciphered from it.
What are the people in the chat saying right now?
Right now, my boy eBay. The Ebo.
eBay, the Ebo?
Yeah, I like you, eBay. He said Shinobi ain't excrement. That's what he said. I'll say it that way. And one of the guys, Bank Music House Group, said David did not put Gloria back on. It was her choice. And he felt like he was trying to deal with it the best way he felt how, as like David supporting his mom instead of having the streets support his mother.
How you gonna serve your mama though?
But he gave his mother drugs.
But that,
though.
and that's
That's a
one of the
reality.
things,
Yeah.
But
you know.
Yeah.
She once an addict, always an addict. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm disagreeing.
It's all right.
A little bit. But I feel like he gave her the drugs. He set that up for. I don't think he
The
set it up.
breadcrumbs, you
Yeah,
think? Okay.
basically. And I'm not trying to say he did it purposefully. I don't really know where David's intention was when he did that. I know he felt sorry for his mom, but I do feel like he started his mom back on drugs.
Yeah, definitely. We saw that action, but when did David make this plan? Like, when did he decide he was going to have this master plan? Was it last week or
So-
like from the beginning of the series?
It was actually after the scene with him and Rainen. When he finds out that Rainen was part of Sky getting killed. He sits him. He literally in that scene
Okay.
says, "We're gonna sit here and we're gonna figure this out."
Right.
Okay. First of all, seeing Sky die like that and knowing that
That was
David
dirty.
saw him, he was there. Another question. Is Sky David's real dad?
No.
Okay, so he's his dad, his like father figure.
He's a father figure.
Right.
Okay.
He's
He
the,
was a father
he's the big homie in the hood.
Got
you know
it.
what I mean?
But I think it's important to realize too, this episode was the three sons. So it's
Exactly.
Shinobi, Rainen, and David. And
Right.
at some point it seemed like they all had a connection.
Mm-hmm.
And when with the death of Sky, it broke their connection. It broke
Right.
their trust.
He was the glue.
right. So
And remember when in the beginning we didn't know what their relationship would be like. We thought, looking back, thinking, I thought
You mean Rainen?
Rainen and
Oh, you know, I
David,
had my thoughts.
Right, we thought all kinds of things.
I thought they was in Atlanta for a little while.
Right,
I'm
they was
just
gonna be in a
saying.
relationship. We thought they were gonna fight, and then it ended with them kind of just coming to a truce.
Yeah.
And Rainen going back to the preppy kid that we always knew he was.
Right.
I think that was all in Rainen playing. He was ready to be done.
He was tired.
Yeah, he was done and
But that's
tired.
not
He
his
done took
life.
his- he
But
took out
Rainen
his-
took out his hair. He said,
You got the curl back in there. He was like, "Look here, player. I'm good." Okay.
I said, I knew those was faux locks, but dang. You was cute though. But
What are the things? Josh? Can you let us know why we love this show and so many other AfterBuzz shows?
Yes, I will. First of all, I want to say thank you to all of our viewers out there. Thank you for allowing us to do what we do by watching us. We are the ESPN of TV talk, and we wouldn't be able to do it without you all. If you are on YouTube, please make sure you give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our pages. That way you get a ding whenever we post a new video. You can see our great artists who come in, like Lucien and like Jabari. And so we just want to say thank you to you all. Keep us up to date on the things you're doing in the chat, and we'll always keep you all up to date.
Thank you. And shout out to everybody, who commented last week. Akaziaj J, eBay the Ebo, Ebby Reviews, Yvonne Scott, Adra Herbert, Comb Kid, Mark Johnson, The True Pharaoh, Mocha Janelle. Do you see all our comments?
Yeah, they're coming through.
Yes,
Jamie
yes.
Dupree and Everyday People 629. Now, Lucien, we know everything about you, but Jabari, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you got on this project.
Yeah, I'm actually from the Crenshaw district, so I most definitely grew up in the urban war zone, and I connected to this series. Terrell's writing, Lucian's writing, even though they're from the urban war zone of Florida. I mean, we have those all over the United States. So when I got the call to be a part of this and bring my talents to it, I was really pleased. I read the script several times, and I just paced back and forth because it hit me in a real place. I seen myself in David, actually being shot at the age of 13 and having something to live for. And however, I just didn't want to when I got the first and then, they were still writing 10, you didn't know how this thing was going to end.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
You also had the opportunity to bring on new artists with
absolutely.
this project. Why was that important to you?
it was so important to actually be truthful to the soil of Miami and Homestead and Dade County. And so I was able to, lock in with some Tallahassee and Orlando and Miami talent, Willie Beamer being one of them, who did actually 4 songs throughout the season. So we kept it true. Ted Lucas from Slip and Slide, he has one of the hottest, rappers going from Miami, and was able to use some really big, phenomenal records from him as well throughout the piece. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Excuse me, Sahai. We have a
Sure.
shout out
Okay.
from Zuri Outlaw.
Okay.
Proud of you, Dad. Doing big things.
That's
That's
beautiful.
that's my
great.
oldest.
All right. I'm saying I know it's not Lucian's.
And I'm so proud of her because she's been producing since she was 12 years old.
That's
and,
awesome.
and she actually has a nice instrumental in David Makes Man, and so
Look at
Put the
you.
family on.
Right.
That's
See?
good.
absolutely.
Put the
I mean,
family
putting
on.
on independent artists,
Right.
putting on young producers, bringing the next level talent to the table, and giving them the exposure. With such a great narrative.
That's
you know
great.
What I mean? Yeah.
Thank you. Lucien, you've been here several times, but I joke that we know everything, but we don't. What's something that you wanted us to know that you have it that you didn't get to say in one of your previous interviews?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
What's
Lucien.
something?
Yeah,
That's
something.
a very
Either something behind the scenes or storyline wise that would help the audience and people watching this show.
well, yeah. Well, there's a couple different things. But
Like you said one time that it was very religious based.
very religious place. So yeah, if you track, like, for a lot of people who are like, hey, I don't know what to do next week because there's not an episode coming on. If you want to go back and track some things, there are so many clues and nuggets that you'll see, like, especially within like episode 2. Like, I always tell people episode 2 is very important for a lot of different reasons. And even back then you kind of get a glimpse of, for instance, what you saw play out with Teoteo and the police. You know, he tells him, like, the cops come around, don't run.
Right.
You know,
Because they're working together.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he doesn't see it. He doesn't say it straight off, but you can tell that is just something that is going on once you go back. And there's so many different little nuggets throughout that I love in this story. But overall, I would say also the connections to things like the story of Hamlet. Like, you know, like there are so many different things that people are like, oh man, I didn't realize that. But if you kind of just track the story and along with those other things.
Even the Negro spirituals, you know, we use several Negro spirituals that, you know, are public domain songs. You know, There's a Fountain, which Saren actually sung in the church in episode 7, you know, that made that connection. So, you know, and just having a great time with the Crenshaw Elite Choir. And Iris Stevenson came on board, had the young people,
I didn't know y'all
sing.
had Dr. Stevenson on that.
Yes, we did.
What?
She wasn't actually in the actual show.
Right.
But I mean, her contribution to,
Yes.
you know, with Saren and working with him when he came in from New York and going into the studio. I mean, it was just magical.
Yeah, you know, she used to be our minister of music of international for Church of God in Christ.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
absolutely. So that's she's at a real place with me because she was that figure in high school that you can go and have somebody to talk to and lean your shoulders on when you were going through whatever, you know, times you were going through, rough or good.
I think that's a theme that we see throughout the show. Like we have the OGs helping like the the youngins, you know, like learn how the game is on camera and off camera. Like having someone like a Felicia Rashad and you know, like who played Gloria's mama last week? Leela Rochon.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
Rochon,
all these actresses and actors that have been in the game so long, just helping everyone. It's been amazing and beautiful to watch.
Yes.
Touching base real quick on Saren and Mrs. Kelly. So Mrs. Kelly done showed up looking for her son still, and David done told her everything.
Yep.
Yes.
She don't got what she deserved.
Okay, so why did you write it like that?
Because it was, like I said, it is King David at this point in time. And I remember earlier today you were talking about like when that switch happened.
Right.
When that switch happened. When we look back at episode 7 and he put that crown on his head.
Right.
Right. That was when it
That
happened.
threshold and he went back to that was his first time back in that space.
Right.
That everything went down. And now we see at this point in time that he was facing something that was traumatic to him.
Right.
But that was that moment for him.
Well,
you know?
Raiden had mentioned it to him. He said you finally came back,
Yeah,
huh? Yeah.
Exactly. So for him, you know, it was like, look, everybody, you know, I'm cleaning up my neighborhood. I'm cleaning up my life the best way I can. And that was a representation of that. That's why you see him going and telling everybody about themselves in many different ways.
Yeah, he told Tay about herself.
You know,
he said, your mama bought drugs from this person.
You know?
So
and Mrs. Kelly needed to know.
She did.
Right. You know?
And for me, you know, it's been hurting me, this Saren storyline. Like just you know, seeing a child hurt like this. I'm glad he told, and I think it hopefully encourages other young people to be able to tell the adults when their friends are being hurt. You don't need to keep stuff like that a secret. That's too much.
Yes.
You know?
And one of the main things is he had to make sure his friend was safe first. Right. How did he feel like his friend is safe?
Yeah, and I think the way Lucien and, you know, they put it together in the room, I mean, they kept it true to the code.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to be a snitch, no matter it's to the police or to whoever else. Like, that's your homie. You're not trying to snitch on him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even though it called for him telling an adult.
Right.
But still, he was still bound by, the code.
The code.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that loyalty and self-respect that we saw David grow into, he returned that prescription pad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did y'all expect him to do that?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw
you
him
saw that
definitely
coming.
doing
Kind of
that.
had to.
Uh-huh.
He has,
Yeah, he didn't have
They're
no
about
choice.
to get in trouble. But my question is, was David always this keen? Like, were all the other personalities something that he was always acting? He was always
So-
acting, and this is who he was.
So he had to walk. So you know how they always talk about that coming of age,
Right.
Right.
You know, so these are the things that Sky saw in him. These are the things that other people saw, and this is the reason why Rainen was so curious and had that so much of an affinity for David, because it's just like, what is that? What is that thing about you?
That intangible.
You know, it's just like when Teo says in episode 2, you know, sometimes pawns become king.
Kings. He foreshadowed it.
You know, and that's why I
Yeah.
always be telling everybody, I'm like, yo, there's so many nuggets throughout these episodes.
Right.
But yeah, so it was in him.
Right.
But he needed those triggers, he needed those things to bring it out of him.
Okay.
And the life that he's living, what he's been seeing, and all those things that he's going through have helped him develop to that point where he can.
So he was made into a man.
That's what I was going to
Exactly.
ask you.
David
Right.
makes man.
Makes
Right.
man.
Exactly.
Because
Okay.
Terrell said it yesterday. Can you break down for people who are like, why do they name the show this? Like, can you just give a quick explanation of why it's called David Makes Man?
Well, actually, it's what we're talking about. You know, it has that reference to King David in the Bible. It has that. But it's really and truly the breakdown of what it means to become a man at such a young age. You know, and no matter what environment you're dealing with, you know, everybody has their own journey, but sometimes you have to become man. Earlier than other people do.
Right.
Depending on
So
given
you
circumstances.
don't just become a man. You also make yourself
Or
into
you're
the man you
molded.
want to be.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you're
You're
molded.
molded.
And I
I
think
like that.
middle school era for young people
Yes.
is just it's that breeding ground for this is who I'm going to be
Right.
and become. That's when you kind of make your choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Depending on what, elements you're dealing with. So
I wanna-
that's David.
I want to ask you a
You know?
question, Jabari. as well.
Absolutely.
So when they were filming the show, at what stage did you start to determine what type of music would go with the show? How did you come up with that format?
So basically, there was a playlist in the writer's room. Terrell had his playlist. D had their playlist. And I contributed, my playlist. So it was a collaborative, effort. However, what came off the page,
Right.
was just it was on. It was just like, okay, this is what we need to do. Like even in episode 7 when David puts the crown
crown
on,
right.
Father stretch my hands,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
T.L. Barrett, you know what I mean? That, and that was also a song I think Kanye sampled.
Kanye sampled.
So all of these things and tying it in, with the music and having the music and all these songs, these 70 music cues throughout the
Yes.
series, all be poignant. It all actually help drive narrative and just echo it.
And speaking of that, can you explain for anyone who's aspiring to be a music supervisor what exactly that means? Like just kind of give us a quick breakdown of what a music supervisor is for anyone who's questioning.
So yeah, I do master classes, all over the country on music supervision, and but to sum it all up, you have to have a broad range of publishing, of musicianship, of your network has to be immense. As far as across the board with producers, engineers, singers, songsters, singer-songwriters. You just gotta have a love and a passion for filmmaking.
Because you also get to sit and watch the footage and then connect the song to it. Because you're in
It's
in
a little
post.
bit sometimes.
Okay.
Right. A lot of people think that it's that simple, but it's
Right.
not. You have to create original songs as well for whatever is necessary, whatever the call is for you to do. And my thing is like, basically what I'm doing is I'm taking my director or my EP's vision, and I'm enhancing that.
Okay.
I'm a part of
With the
enhancing
music.
that musical landscape of the entire series. Just like with Laura and Vula.
Right.
It bookend, David Makes Man.
Right.
We opened with that, and all the promos, Sing to the Moon. Shout out to Laura and Vula. She's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And that was a song and a connection that Terrell had with this artist. He was like, man, I gotta have her. Like, she is the the soundtrack, the pinnacle of the soundtrack for David Makes Man.
That's
and
beautiful.
everything kind of comes from there, right? And so we could get to the episode, the finale,
Right.
and we used 2 incredible songs by her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sing to the Moon being the one that closed it, and then she had one prior to that. So,
I love that.
yeah.
Keeping it in the family. We part of the family now, right?
You guys are family.
And
What?
we'll show you in our news and gossip segment how Lucien gave us the hookup yesterday. We appreciate you so much. We had a special event yesterday. But wrapping up quickly, because I have some rapid fire questions that I just need to have answered.
Get it, Sahai, get it.
We talked about David and let's talk about David and Rainin real quick. But we kind of touched on them a little bit. But we just saw their relationship change so much in this final episode, and David grow. And then Sky. Let's talk about Sky. Seeing Sky in his house cooking the salmon cakes, okay?
Salmon croquettes.
I love a man who can cook. Seeing him in that wife beater, I was like,
Now Jordan is watching, Sahai.
That's okay. That's okay.
Wow.
But no, I appreciate his talent and his cooking skills. I like the fact that you guys showed that because it just showed him being such a nurturing person. In this episode, we got to see the day Sky died, right? And we heard all the questions David had for him, that he would have loved to ask that he didn't get a chance to, and they were in the middle of it. And it was just so sad to see how it started. When you guys saw, was there anything that surprised you in seeing the day that Sky died?
Yes.
What?
He did not have his pistol on him when he went to the Ville. And I could not imagine any scenario where you don't have your pistol. I could, when I saw him reach back, I said, bruh, that's like your arm.
Right.
Like you can't leave without it.
Right.
I think what shocked me was the questions that David was asking. And then he said, what was your favorite food? But I felt like Sky was making his favorite food. And he said, what was your favorite song? I felt like Sky was listening to his favorite song. And sometimes I always think that, I don't know for sure because I haven't passed away yet. But I think that sometimes when you pass away, like you do things or things happen that you don't necessarily or haven't necessarily done. And he's also been telling his 3 sons, which we learned is Shinobi, Rainin, and David, I don't want this life for you.
Right.
Like, this is something I don't want you guys to go down this path. But obviously he can't stop them.
Right.
But he urged them, and I think David was someone he kept urging, like, no.
Because he saw something in him.
Yes, he saw something
and he saw himself in him, I think, as well. Okay, so let me get to my rapid fire questions.
Oh, okay. I was going to comment on what...
Oh, like...
Oh,
yeah, please. So I was going to say, it's funny that you pointed that out about him having his pistol, because we see in that opening scene... He put it behind the couch when Shinobi came in.
Right.
And that's where he left it.
Yeah. That's the first thing I said.
Yeah, and it's also one of the great things about it is the fact that, we talk about Three Sons Sky, but all 3 of them had a part to do with his death.
Right.
With Shinobi being there.
Yeah.
With Shinobi being there in that first moment, where he got the call, him going over to his other son's house to make sure that he was okay, him being with his son when everything went down.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
Damn. See, this is why we need you, Lucien. Thank you.
I know y'all would have been mad at me if I never got a chance to say that.
Yeah, you're right.
And on that tip, I just got a few more questions. So is Desmond dead?
Desmond is dead.
Oh, yeah.
Desmond, Is Gloria back on drugs full time?
Is Gloria back on drugs full time? We don't know.
I don't believe it.
Okay.
We don't know.
Is David going to Hurston?
Is David going to Hurston?
That was a fantasy he was seeing.
You think that was a fantasy?
That's one of the things that I keep seeing on Twitter. Everybody is like, maybe it was a fantasy, maybe it was not.
Why would he fantasize that? I mean, she gave him a hard time. He checked her in his own way, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
do you think David deserves to go to Hurston?
I
yes,
do.
But
I do.
I think he won't be the person that he needs to be if he goes to Hurston. He'll be a different type of person. And I think Hurston will actually prevent him from... It will limit him in some ways because he's still going to have to be playing a role.
But she did make the call.
She did. We did see her.
So
she really made the call.
Do we think that Sky knew it was Desmond behind the mask?
yes.
I don't think so.
You
I
don't
do.
think
Jabari, you think he
I
knew?
do. I mean, he was a coward, first of all, for even coming in there with a mask on doing that.
And you saw he was shaking,
You know what I
he was
mean?
spurred.
So
So
And then-
I think he knew.
go ahead. I think that he knew that it was his time. He knew why he came in there, but he
Right.
didn't know the person.
Who it was.
Yeah, he knew.
So he knew
Here's
it
the
was
writer of the
because
show.
Right.
So I mean, this,
yeah,
this is
he
just
did.
me reading it off the page.
Yeah,
I'm
he
like,
knew,
Right.
which is the reason why he says the things that he says when he comes in.
Very
It's like
calmly.
this, this
Yeah.
don't got to go that way.
Right.
Like,
Right.
the thing is in the cut, but the way that Desmond was holding the gun and everything, he knew. This ain't about money.
Right.
Right.
This is
You know,
something else.
but he don't know Desmond. He
Right.
didn't know Desmond from in that way.
Oh, okay.
Will David ever see Sky again? Like will he ever appear to him again?
Yes.
Okay. And
But-
last question: what does JIT mean?
Florida.
It's like it's almost like jitterbug, like yeah. So it's like a jit, like a youngin. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. We have a couple more minutes. Let's get into some news and gossip.
Oh, guys.
AfterBuzz TV News.
Okay, so as you know, we were invited to the inside look of David Makes Man the last episode. Thank you, Lucien. It was amazing. And so Josh urged me to ask a question. So this is the panel. Lucien was on there. Jabari was on the panel.
Yes.
So we have the greats here right now. And then the next picture, which was so amazing, we got to take with that's us. That's Terrell. That happened.
Yeah.
But so we, Josh, again, you said no. Ask this question.
That's right. Go
You put me
ahead.
on the spot. So I'm like, okay. So I went and I said I'm gonna raise my hand. I asked the question. It was a burning question because during the first episode, I thought that there was some relation between slavery and David Makes Man in that first pilot episode. And basically, I can't say it as beautifully as Terrell said it. 'Cause I'm just not able to do that. But he said yes. And it gave me like a longer explanation of how, which made perfect sense. Like urban planning, basically
Right.
explaining how the projects wasn't made to protect us. It was actually made to take us like out of the vicinity of those who thought they would be harmed by us. And so how that was basically like his incarceration. He was engulfed in the project, so it was him running away from it. And then he also said, then the panel, I'm sorry, I gotta get my thoughts together. There was so much going on. So the panel, everyone basically said that they resonated with David, like their story was told in David. And I think everyone who watched it also felt that way. And it was just so crazy to me to see how everyone's really connected by this story, but I'm not surprised. And I think what stood out to me was D. Is it just D?
D. Harris.
D. Harris, yeah, she mentioned how she had daydreams as well. Yeah, she mentioned about daydreams, and I think I was like, oh wow, I kind of do the same thing. So I'm just like, wow, is anyone else seeing themselves in David? Every time I watch something, I'm revealed, like something is revealed to me. So we love this episode, and I thanked everyone for allowing us to all use our five senses in watching this. And I also had mentioned that that's why we have Jabari here, that's why we have Lucien here, and that's why we have the actors here, because it's so important to realize that this is a show that, like Terrell said during this inside look, you can't just make a sandwich too. Like you have to actually sit and watch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was the news.
Thank you, Zakiya. Also, one of the beautiful things about it, like she said, is that we got to meet some of the people that we haven't had here in the in-house. And I got a chance to speak to the showrunner and EP, D. Harris Lawrence. And I asked her about season 2. And she said, give it about a month, we should have an update. Is that correct?
Yep. I gotta keep. Hey, if you want a season 2, let everybody know
That's
you want
right.
a
Heard
season
it.
2.
Okay.
That's right.
Lucien said it.
At On TV, at Oprah.
Yes, at
At David Makes Man.
That's
what I'm
right,
saying?
yeah.
Hit them all up.
Yeah.
Let them know you want that season 2.
That's
Yes,
right. On
indeed.
Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Continue to watch this show and comment so they can
Spread
see
the
that.
word.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and tell your friends and family, because we would love to have everyone back and see what happens in David's life.
Because we got a lot planned.
Okay, so let us take
That
us into
part.
predictions real
That
quick
part.
then, because it is the season finale.
And now,
Okay.
What are we gonna present?
Well, Josh, you made a face. I'm gonna start with you then.
Well, first I did want to say something to what you said. How when Terrell taught us that the projects were made to keep the men.
Yes.
Sky actually referenced that when he was talking to David at that moment right before he got killed. So I just wanted to point that out. But my prediction at this point, I do think David is going to go to Hurston. I think that David is in a position where he can get dual education. He can get education from his hometown, from where he lives, to get that man, facade, and he can go to Hurston to get the education and the creativity that he needs. I feel like he could learn both. I had friends who did that.
He can handle it.
Oh yeah, he definitely can handle it. And I don't think his mom is full-time on drugs. I think this is a temporary thing. It's tantamount to a relapse, but I think it's just a situation that David is controlling so that he can keep his mom at bay. And then afterwards, I feel like he's going to put her in her place and say, look here, Mom, get yourself together. We got to move on.
Okay, Zakia, what are your predictions?
Well, I definitely predict that the fight between the Uncle Teo and David is not over. I do predict that Rainen thinks he's off the hook, but he's not as well, because I don't think he really bought his story.
So you think his uncle doesn't really believe him?
I don't think so at all. And I think we're going to finally see a storyline for JG. And maybe he's going to have some type of conflict with David, because he is the reason. David is the reason why Willie Derrick is gone. So maybe JG might get in the mix.
Okay.
Something.
So you smiling over there, Lucien. Tell us what you would like to see happen in season 2.
I can't tell you that.
Okay,
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that.
Okay, but tell us, for people who haven't seen the show, why they should watch it and look forward to a season 2.
Well, I would say that you should watch it because there really isn't anything else like it on television.
Right.
One, it gives you an insight in so many different ways, nostalgic ways, a culture, diversity, things that we need to see on television. It talks about things in terms of trauma, in terms of healing, so many different things that are going on within the Black community, so many different things that are going on within communities everywhere that aren't really discussed or met head on, and it does it in a beautiful way. It does it in a way that allows you cinematically to jump out of your seat and say, wow, like I'm touched on all 5 senses.
Right.
And so it's important television, it's important storytelling. And I feel like as creators, as minority creators, we need to protect our stories.
That's true.
And I think that's the reason why people should get up and go and watch it and tell everybody else about it.
Thank you, guys. And then in wrapping up, Jabari, why would you tell people who say the show might be too deep, tell them why they should watch David Makes Man?
I mean, there's nothing too deep. I mean, being in a post-slavery, time, it's nothing too deep because we're survivors. We've already won. So, I mean, this show just taps into, the journey of young people and how it bridges the gap between generations, whether it's, Black Lives Matter or whether it's, the Civil Rights Movement. I mean, we have to continue to bridge these gaps and understand the journey of young people with code switching, with dealing with all of these different things. You know what I mean? And, because at first when I read this, I thought it was like mental illness.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, that was me. I had the code switch because I was bust.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the magnet school. I went outside of my community and I rebelled against it. You know what I mean?
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And wrapping up, Jabari, where can they find you on social media?
Oh, wow. I'm at Paragon Film Music, Twitter, Instagram. I go harder on the gram than Twitter, but Paragon Film Music is where you can find me.
Lucien, where can they find you?
At Lucien Christian on both IG and on Twitter. LucienChristian.
Thank you. Zakia, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at ZakiaW_ on Instagram.
All right, y'all can find me everywhere at Cleverly Clad.
And everyone, thank you so much for allowing me to host this show. My name is Sahai Wilson. You can find me on Instagram at SayHiSahai. Thank you to all the guests. Thank you to the commenters. Thank you to the crew. Thank you to the cast for making this special show, David Makes Man. See you for season 2 right here on AfterBuzz TV.
That's right.
Bye. Speaking into existence.
Thank you.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.